All right, so my lift kit from Goldstar Parts arrived today for Heisei, the Suzuki Carry van. And I bought a set of new springs, which should give me 1 inch to 1.25 inch lift, and spacers for the struts for the front that should give me another inch, 1.25 inch. So I'm expecting to get at least 2 inches of lift. That should mean that I only have to trim off about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of sheet metal up front, so that with the tracks on, when I go to maximum steering to the left or to the right, I don't have any rubbing of the tracks on the sheet metal body of the van. So the instructions say it should take me about 2 hours to install. So it'll probably take me somewhere between 3 and 6 hours. That's probably a pretty good factor for installing something like this for the first time for myself. So I'm going to start with the front, and hopefully that goes well. Then I'll move on to the back, and then I'll install the tracks. I got the van jacked up, I got the front tires off, and I've got the right front, also known as the driver's side, strut off at the bottom. I've got the seat out of the way so I can get to the top of the strut. Those nuts are really rusted, so hopefully those things are going to come apart and nothing's going to break on me, and it's all going to be clean. Where we're at here is I got the struts off the K-van, had to drill out 2 of the studs on one of the struts because they were really rusted and there was no way to get the nuts off. My friend Adam came over and helped me disassemble the struts. We were able to use the strut compressor tool from O'Reilly's to compress the old springs. However, the tool from O'Reilly's was sort of too big and couldn't grab the springs in a way that would allow us to get the springs over the struts and reassemble everything. So I took everything over to my friend Rada's, and we tried a couple different things with his press. We used his press to compress the springs, and then we wrapped some baling wire around in about 3 or 4 places. And when we let the tension off, the baling wire started to bust. So we had to bail out on that plan. What ended up working was using the press to compress the spring, and then we put on about 5 stainless steel hose clamps and tightened them down really tight to hold the spring together, took it out of the press. Then we were able to slide the spring over the strut and reassemble everything. So we had 2 of them to do. The first one took about 2 hours, and the second one took about 20 minutes. So in about 2.5 hours, I had the struts reassembled, brought them back home, and Tina just helped me get the struts reinstalled on the front end. Okay, you can see the new spring in there. The front lift is installed. The tires are back on. I lowered it down. I took it for a drive. It doesn't drive too bad. It could probably use a front end alignment, but we're going to go with this for now. I had to cut the plastic bumper cover because it was interfering with the tracks. There's sort of this integrated kind of mud flap that drops down about 3 inches. I cut that off the back bumper cover. Now I've got the clearance I need. Last night I started installing the rear tracks. I figured, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. Well, it turned out there were several complications. The anti-rotation stabilizer bar and linkage that go from the track to the van needed to attach to a perch on the body of the van for the upper control arm. So I had to take out the existing bolt. And once I took out the bolt, the entire rear end of the vehicle shifted backwards quite a bit. And I couldn't get a control arm lined back up with the perch to put the bolt back in. And this morning, came down, tried a few more things, and ended up taking out the bolt on the back end of that upper control arm so that it was free to slide front to back. I attached the bolt that I was having a hard time with, which goes through the track's anti-rotation linkage. Of course, that was a piece of cake once the back of the control arm was disconnected. But then I was faced with the same problem. How do I get the rear end of the vehicle forward enough to get the back of that upper control arm lined up? And what I ended up doing was wrapping a ratchet strap around the control arm and around the 4x4 post of my workbench in the garage. And I tightened down the ratchet strap to sort of bring things together. I got really close, and then the truck started moving backwards. I started pulling it off the jack stands and off the jack. Turns out when you're working on an 1,800-pound truck, you can't pull, push, and count on the weight of the truck holding things where it is. I got it really close. I still couldn't get the bolt in. So I ended up going to my parts bin, and I used a 1/4-inch bolt I had that was the right length to reattach the back of that upper control arm to the body of the van. So it went through. You know, I got it close enough for a 1/4-inch bolt to go through. All right, we got both the back tracks on Heisei, and we realized it's so high off the garage floor that it might not clear either the beam or the HVAC ductwork or the garage door opening. So before we put the front tracks on, we're gonna go ahead and try to drive it out and see if we can get her out. All right, we rolled Heisei out of the garage with back tracks and front tires. And then in the driveway, got the front 2 tracks installed. Gave it a little test ride up and down the driveway, and found I needed to do some more trimming on the back bumper and the front fenders to create the clearance. So got the Sawzall out and went to town. Looks like I've got the clearance we need now. Straighten it out in the driveway and try to get it on the trailer. All right, well, the snowmobile trailer does not work for Heisei. I broke 1, maybe 2 welds, and the trailer tilted where it wasn't supposed to tilt, and it was a fiasco. So we're done with that trailer in the Heisei, and in the interim, I went and rented a trailer from Miller's. So we're gonna load the Heisei on this trailer. We've got Heisei loaded up on the rental trailer and everybody's ready to go. We're gonna hit the road in about 2 hours. We should be at the parking lot down below the cabin where we'll unload Heisei, give it a try out in the snow, and then we'll drive the 6 miles up to the cabin.